Hello and welcome to Just Onside. It's Sunday. It's just past midday. It's dreary. It's damp. It's typical UK weather. It's typical Blackburn weather that always was used to. Obviously, he's in sunnier climes now. So, how are you?
I'm doing good, Ayub. Thank you so much. 4:30 here in the UAE, Abu Dhabi. But I'm doing very well. Flying to Saudi tomorrow after work. So looking forward to a few weeks with family coming over from the UK and parents as well. So very blessed, very grateful. Very much looking forward to a few weeks and a bit of time off, mate.
That's so you should be. So you should be. Right. Before you jet off to Saudi, we'll talk a little bit about the football. What better place to start than at Anfield? We talked about Salah last week, the fallout. It did get a little bit ugly, but I've got to be honest, yesterday, I mean, that reception that Salah got was just absolutely magnificent. So certainly from the fans' point of view, uh, there's no animosity. He is as loved as he always has been. A bit of a shot in the eye for Carragher, who his comments stunk a little bit. I've got to be honest. But what did you make of that? I mean, it was a surprise. I've got to be honest. When Gomez went off, uh, you knew that probably Szoboszlai would go to right back. Well, you wouldn't have thought that the first man that's going to come on would be Mo Salah. But the reception was wonderful. So, what's your take on that? And what's your take on exactly what's happened over the last week or so? Now that you've had time to digest it.
Yeah, it's a good way you've put it there. I wasn't as surprised when he did come on, mainly because of the situation in the game itself. It's a unforeseen injury, although some Liverpool fans will tell you Gomez has been unreliable from a fitness perspective over the years. But they're winning the game, aren't they, Ayub? It's at home,
Hmm.
they're winning. It's a situation where I also think with Bradley suspended, I think he picked up a yellow card, perhaps at Ellen Road, that put him out of this game. Um, Ultimately, his hand was forced somewhat. And I say that respectfully. I don't think it's a case of Slot thinking, well, can I do something other than bring him on? I don't think he's that type of coach. He's that type of manager. He spoke about that, didn't he? You've been in his press conference where he said, look,
Hmm.
normally I'm very calm and polite, but that shouldn't be mistaken for weakness. So, yeah, I think ultimately this was the only solution available to him. But I think it was made easier by the fact that they were winning and very much in the ascendancy. Now, what is interesting, are you just to uh, come back to the latter part of your question in terms of the fact that we've had a few days to digest. Obviously, they've had a big win in midweek where Salah didn't travel in Milan. They've picked up a big win there due to a late penalty from Szoboszlai. And I think now Liverpool are trying to, uh, from a play perspective, to try and get themselves to be a little bit more difficult to beat. Now, yesterday, Brighton were worthy of a goal. I think if you watch the game, they were worthy of a goal. But Liverpool also showed good attacking verve. And Salah had a very good game, I thought, when he came on. I thought he looked potent. Yeah, he missed some opportunities. He also missed a few opportunities in terms of assists, a few situations he should do much, much, much better with, especially the one at the end when Van Dijk was streaking through. I think maybe it was Robertson on the other side as well. I mean, that's basics for a football at this level to put that through. Um, but generally speaking, he had a very good game. You're right, he had a good welcome. It was probably always going to be the case, wasn't it? You Liverpool fans
Hmm.
are passionate, but they're also very knowledgeable and very understanding of what this player has meant to this football club. So I don't think it's a case of, yeah, they're an emotive, passionate club. But I think there's a little bit of understanding that okay, we appreciate where his frustrations are coming from, and look, a lot of that is frustrations with his own shortcomings in his game right now in terms of his advancing age. That's what the world class stars are. They struggle to come to terms in a sense with their kind of mortality somewhat, their footballing mortality on the pitch. So I think, look, what I would say is from a Liverpool fans' perspective, I didn't expect anything different. The fact that they've got him back into the team after one, I guess, interview outburst perhaps didn't allow too much to fester. Most Liverpool fans that I spoke to had a balanced view, which is that, look, he shouldn't have done what he did. He shouldn't have said what he said, but we get it. That's what makes him also the player he is. So I think both things can be true. I thought Slot dealt with it for the most part, you fairly well. What you want to do in a situation like this is not put more gas on the fire, more fuel on the fire. And I think he took a bit of time out. He played it with a pretty straight bat, unlike some of those English batsmen down under. But he played with a straight bat, didn't he? With the press conference on Friday morning, saying, "Look, you can ask a million ways. I'll be responding in the same way, which is that the next conversation I have about this situation needs to be with more directly." So he's had that conversation. They've integrated him back into the squad. Interestingly, there's been no public retraction, let's say, of the apology. I always feel if you're going to lambast the club and hint at issues with the manager publicly, then that apology should also be in public. You'll remember famously, I think Guardiola made some slightly disparaging comments about Steven Gerrard a few years ago. And I remember the very next press conference, he apologized to Gerrard, his family, and all the rest of it. And he said, "Look, I commented publicly, so I'm going to apologize publicly, as opposed to doing it privately." So I do expect Salah at some point, you'd hope, that he'd see sense and make some comments. Maybe we'll be waiting for a very long time, but let's see. Look, he's gone off to the African Cup of Nations. Liverpool have got a much needed win, much needed clean sheet as well, I would say. Gets them back up the table. He can go off now and do his thing for Egypt. I still believe this is his final year for Liverpool Football Club. The question is whether or not it's a case of he comes back after January. Right now, you would say that that's still probably the greater likelihood, Ayub, that he will come back. He will help Liverpool improve and get back up further up the table. And maybe the ceiling of their ambition this season, Ayub, is top four. But look, let's see. Let's see how things pan out. The only thing Liverpool can do is to play better and win football games. And then you go wherever that takes you. I think there's things happening behind the scenes. I think there's talks happening, perhaps with some Saudi clubs. Maybe there's some maneuverings happening, whether or not there's a January deal. Maybe there's a summer deal. The fact of the matter is, Mo Salah, for the level of contribution that he's making this season, is getting paid a very pretty penny. And I think Liverpool, for the most part, would like to see those wages and salary be managed by somebody else, by all intents and purposes. So I don't think Liverpool, for the contributions he's making this season, see enough value. Let's say I think they might be happy enough to pay him what he's obviously contractually obliged to be paid for the rest of the season, get him back into the top four, get him Champions League football, the money that brings, and then have some sort of mutual understanding that, look, it's good for the club to recoup some money, it's good for you, you get to leave on a bit of a high, and ultimately spend a couple of years playing competitive football, maybe in the Saudi league. So I think they need to try and get to that position, Ayub, where all parties can amicably part. There's no doubt in my mind that Liverpool Football Club would like to manage his exit at some point in the short term, whilst they're still able to realize some value for his exit. So that part, you would say, is right now. So I think talks are ongoing. I think there'll be a meeting of the minds, and a meeting of the different stakeholders involved. And I think that will realize in the short term. Just very quickly, it's been a bit of back and forth about Jamie Carragher. You saw he got involved with Rio Ferdinand. Again, these two seem to be having a lot of friendly fire, I would say, in recent months, in recent years. Look, Jamie Carragher has standing in the game. He's a Liverpool icon, Liverpool legend. I do respect his view on all things Liverpool, because ultimately I would argue he has earned the right to talk about his football club. He was a one club man. But that still means that we're going to critique everything that obviously all the different players say. Obviously, you saw the famous kind of clip that been clipped out about him never having criticised Salah on the pitch, and was it, what's his name, Dave Jones, or what his name said? Well, he said his legs had gone. I mean, it's about as disparaging a comment as you can make about a football player. Listen, he's entitled to his view. It just doesn't make it right, and I think he perhaps didn't articulate it in the way that he should have. Again, I'm not a big fan of what Merson spoke about as well, suggesting that, well, I'm fully on the side of Salah. They would not have won anything without him. Life isn't black and white. So, yeah, I think all in all, this is how normally these things happen. This is the end game. Let's be very clear. This is how the end game plays out when you've got big people involved, big clubs, big stakeholders, big protagonists in world football. He will leave Liverpool Football Club. I think the greater likelihood is that he'll leave in the summer, Ayub, whilst helping Liverpool get back into at least the top four. And there'll be a parting of the ways. And I think I'm glad that he played well yesterday. Would have been capped off with a goal. He got a good reception. My two nephews were in the crowd as well. It was a good game. Good fun game to watch. Brighton, to be fair, on another day would have scored and made it a bit more difficult. But Liverpool, just right now, need to have a few ugly victories just to build a little bit of confidence. And confidence is what they'll take. They've got a week off now. There's no football in midweek. So, yeah. And I think if you look at some of the injuries just very quickly, you've been the squad profile right now. Gakpo's got a few injuries. Works playing okay. Had a slightly quiet game yesterday. Szoboszlai went off injured. They'll be grateful to have a week off. The only thing I would say is they are a bit light now in terms of some of their forward line. Yes, Ekatike is doing great things, and maybe you can speak to that in terms of him solidifying the number 9 position now for Liverpool Football Club, at least for the short term, and what that means for Isak. But right now, they are short of a few numbers up front. So it'll be interesting to see how they navigate the coming games, especially I think with Spurs on the horizon as well. But all in all, Salah, good return, played well, I thought, for the most part. Liverpool, much needed victory for club and for the manager.
Yeah, well put. And it was really, really nice. I think it's been a very sort of turbulent few days. In fact, it's been a turbulent sort of few months. Obviously, it's sort of
Mm,
we can go back to sort of Jota's death, and it just there's not been a sort of a stable season in a bizarre and perverse sort of way. I almost sort of think that this fallout perhaps is probably the best thing that's happened because it's sort of galvanized the football club in some ways. It's just maybe allowed people to take a step back. I was really, really glad that he got a great reception. I was glad that he got game time as well because I've got to be honest, I almost sort of feared that perhaps he'd already played his last game. Uh, I was thinking last week that he will definitely be sold in January. I think I'm more inclined now to go with what you're saying that it will be in the summer. He will come back, but you never know because I think now the fact that he's going to be in the AFCON, uh, it gives time for the club to maybe have discussions. There's not as much background noise now because there is, I suppose, peace has been made. I mean, it may be a temporary ceasefire, but you never know with Salah. He could be in the AFCON, might make
mm.
another comment and inflame the whole situation. He is prone to the odd outburst, but at least he's going to the AFCON with some sort of stability. I think he looked quite emotional with the reception post game as well. So he obviously does feel a real affinity to this football club, and maybe if he is to leave, he wants to leave on really, really good terms. And maybe finishing top four is the perfect sort of thank you to the Liverpool fans and a goodbye. So I hope that is the scenario. I hope that is the case. Uh, how do you think Slot has handled himself? Because about a couple of weeks ago, there was a lot of Slot out. He sort of he's gone up in my estimation. I've got to be honest. He's handled a very difficult situation with a fair degree of dignity. I mean, these are big, big calls. He's still making his way in the game.
Yep.
Salah's an icon of Liverpool Football Club, and I think sort of looking back now at what's happened over the last week or so, I think he's come out with a lot of credit. The players over the last week have shown that they're certainly behind him. So I think this may be something that in the long run will be a really good thing for Arne Slot. And I think Liverpool may be able to kick off on the back of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very good point that you make, Ayub, about how he's come across. Sport in general, Ayub, when you think about it, it's a different world, isn't it, Ayub? You're talking vast sums of money being kind of handed out to coaches, being handed out to players, all the rest of it. And it's a bubble, isn't it, in terms of this adulation that those players, coaches receive. And some of that, a lot of it is quite intoxicating. You see it in every sport that there's a certain change in behaviors when it comes to those involved, because this is people are kind of worshipping at your feet. Anything that you need, they cater to every last little need, and that creates, in some situations, and I don't want to take it too far, but some sort of God complex. And you see that
Yeah,
all the time
yeah.
across different industries. I don't know if you've been watching the Diddy documentary on Netflix. I'll leave it right there. Anyway, but the point I'm making is,
Leave it, leave
or,
it.
leave it. But what I mean is, the reason I mention that is because in sport, that's very commonplace. This type of situation. It's why Mo Salah feels emboldened to say what he said, because it was inappropriate what he said. Let's be very clear, after a difficult result at Ellen Road. But yet I felt emboldened enough, strong enough to say that, even though it was probably an inappropriate situation. On a slot, in my humble opinion, is the very opposite of that. And I'm glad that he was consistent in a sense of what his character is. He comes across in press conferences last year when the going was really good, very well, very affable, very likable. Gary Neville spoke about, I think when he bumped into him, I want to say Selfridges or Harrods, it was definitely one or the other, but he spoke about how he bumped
It
into
wasn't
him.
Primark, I'll tell you that.
It wasn't Primark. Yes, it wasn't indeed. I think it might have been Harrods. But anyway, the point was he bumped into him. It was with his family. They had I think, a short conversation. I think it was just kind of generally commenting that he was just, it was like everyday bloke, just kind of going around and doing a little bit of shopping. And he comes across that way. But that's easy enough when the going is good, as it was last year, when everything he touched turned to goal. The players were absolutely on fire. They won the league at a canter, and everything was rosy. Now that he's had defeats to deal with which every coach has to, unfortunately, difficult times, difficult situations, and he's having to find solutions. I'm not saying he's found solution, but he's dealt with this situation with the dignity and the humility that you'd expect of him,
Mm.
given that what you'd seen. He wasn't out of character. He didn't throw, and I'll say it again, pour more fuel onto the fire. He just kept it very non-committal. He didn't really speak too much after the Liverpool game about the situation. Now, it obviously transpired immediately after the Liverpool game, but in press conferences, it's been fairly kind of, he's spoken okay about the situation. He said, look, the club's taken a decision, but he's not created a situation where it becomes Salah against Slot. And that's smart
Mm.
because it's a bit like, in a sense, the US presidency. You may not have that much regard, let's say, for the president himself, but the office itself, a lot of people still
Mm.
hold a degree of
Yeah.
reverence. I think when you talk about the two protagonists involved, Salah and Slot, yes, I would argue Salah has more loyalists, if I can say that, than Arne Slot, the person. But when it comes to the position of Liverpool manager, Liverpool Football Club, in terms of Shankly, Paisley, Klopp, Dalglish, others, just to name a few, Joe Fagan, the position is held in the highest regard, and Arne Slot currently holds that, which is why I think Liverpool fans are caught between a rock and a hard place between these, let's say, two stakeholders. So I think he's dealt with it very well, admirably. He's not stoked the situation even more, and I think. What's he going to say? He's not going to say, right, he's never playing for this football club ever again, because he doesn't have that standing within Liverpool Football Club to make that call. I think he's bought himself some time. He knows he needs to work hard simply to get some results. That's what Liverpool Football Club and the fans want. They just want results. They want performances and results, whoever's playing for Liverpool. So he's focused on that. He's taken it upon himself, suggesting that, look, it's up to me to come up with solutions. It's my responsibility, the results. So he's not shying away from that. He's not talking about, well, the coaches have done everything they can. Now it's up to the players. He's not doing any of that nonsense and throwing players under the bus. So, listen, anytime a coach or a manager deals with difficult times with a certain level of integrity and dignity, I'm all for. I really think there's a lot more of that needed in the game in terms of certain behavioral standards. So yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't say he's gone up in my estimation because I held him in the highest regard anyway. And some of us on this podcast were obviously calling for his head. I'll just I'll leave it there. Very, very, very unbecoming, but also very consistent. I would say as well, very consistent with your brand, Ayub.
And just before we sort of move on to your beloved Arsenal, I do want to just have a quick conversation about. I sent you a little snippet about Curtis Jones. You poo-pooed my sort of estimation of the player's ability last week, but it seems to be that there seems to be a consensus of opinion that he's been instrumental in the good stuff that Liverpool are doing. So, have you changed your mind? Do you think Curtis Jones is sort of beginning to fulfill the potential that he promised many, many years ago?
You're misrepresenting my position, Ayub. As always, I mean, the snippet
I
that you
can go back
shared.
to that video. I'll go back to that video.
The snippet that you shared was about, I think, Florian Wirtz's comments about how he's spoken to some colleagues and friends internally and spoken about how he's happy at Liverpool, but also how Curtis Jones has been instrumental in allowing him to fit in nicely within the Liverpool midfield and contribute. I actually thought he had a very good game yesterday, to be fair. I thought he was really good yesterday. There was some showboating as well, which I like. A little bit of arrogance is nothing wrong with that. But he had a very good game yesterday. That was very noticeable in terms of his ball carrying. My only question mark about Curtis Jones, Ayub, is that if you're going to play for Liverpool Football Club in that midfield, especially when times are tough, are you going to be the type of player to stand up and really, stand above the rest? McAllister's had a very difficult season. Gravenberch's had been a few levels below, and multiple Liverpool players have been a level or two levels below below their best, which is what's needed to compete in the Premier League. I just wonder whether or not he's got the abilities to contribute consistently to Liverpool's success. And I don't just mean goals and assists. Football is more than just that. I'm talking about just, what's the most important traits he's going to bring to that football club? Is he going to be a combative midfielder? Is he going to be a silky? Well, they've got a few silky midfielders. What's he going to actually bring in terms of being able to influence results positively? And that's the problem I have with Curtis Jones. I never think that he's ultimately responsible for Liverpool winning. For me, he needs to make more of an imprint in the game itself and to become one of the main men. Do I think he's a nice player? Yes. Do I think he's Liverpool level? He needs to show that. I don't think he's shown that to me, at least, that he's at the level where he can play 32, 33, 34 Premier League games and help Liverpool win the Premier League title. Just my opinion. I've not seen enough evidence of him influencing that. I think, especially when next year, most likely Liverpool will buy a combative, strong midfielder, which I think they will. It'll be interesting to see how many games he gets. But again, yesterday, on the evidence of what I saw yesterday, I thought he had a very, very good game and he made good contributions.
Well, I think if he stays injury free, which is going to be the key caveat, I think this will be the breakout season for Curtis Jones. I do think he's an outstanding footballer. I think uh, he is good enough, without a shadow of a doubt, to be playing for Liverpool. In fact, I think he's good enough to play for any team in that Premier League. So I hope he stays injury free, and I certainly think he's been instrumental in this slight upsurge in Liverpool sort of form over recent weeks. Right, on to the Arsenal. I wasn't actually watching the game. I didn't follow the game. I just checked the score right at the end. Initially, I was surprised it was only 2-1. But when I actually checked the timings, I'm sort of thinking, oh my word, OS must be such a relief, man. But the question then is, if you're struggling to beat a really, really poor Wolves side, have the wheels come off?
Have the wheels come off? Yeah, I mean, look, this was probably the most disappointed I've been in Arsenal this season. And they won the game. They were poor. They didn't deserve to win the game. Yeah, they did not deserve to win the game. I didn't think they deserved to lose against Villa, if you remember. I said I thought a draw was fair, but these situations happen. But they did not deserve to win that game of football. Of course, they were better than Wolves, but Wolves are the worst Premier League team in the history of the Premier League. I mean, you call a spade a spade. I mean, they're a bad bunch. Now, Rob Edwards, give him credit. They're going to go down, but he got them organised and he got them playing into a low block. I don't know what Arsenal were expecting, as though Wolves were just going to open up and take another 7-0 pasting or what have you. Confidence is already at an all-time low. Arsenal were very poor yesterday. Look, there are some explanations for that, but there's such a chasm between the talent available to Arsenal Football Club and Wolves that it shouldn't have been close. And the fact of the matter is, I saw some things yesterday that made me question for the first time, the very first time, whether this team can win the Premier League title. Now, I've spoken consistently this season, Ayub, that I think Arsenal have been the best team in this league. I think they've got the best balance between defense and attack. And that's what makes me feel not confident, I would say, but at least confident that they can go the distance. Now, when I say distance, I mean take this thing into the final few games, for 4 or 5 games. At that point, you need a bit of luck as well, for sure. But yesterday was the first time I felt as though that team was nervous. That team played nervous. They played with a certain level of anxiety. I think the number of changes, especially at the back, and some of that is coach-driven. I'm his biggest fan, but he made some mistakes yesterday. To start Ben White yesterday, and I said this at the start to my friend, I said, that's shocking. I cannot believe he started Ben White. He's a footballer you love. He's a top player. But if you look at his minutes, that he's played since he's come back, he's played a high level of minutes. I'm talking like every 3-4 days. It was the perfect game to play Timber at right back, Saliba at right centre-back, Hincapié at left centre-back, and Miles Lewis-Skelly after the Calafiori suspension at left back. Even he got some minutes in midweek, but he's a young footballer. He's not got any injuries. Play him. It's Wolves. It's the bottom team. Yet he put him on the bench and started White at right back, and he's lost him now because of a muscular injury. And you cannot tell me That's not linked to the number of minutes he's been playing. Again, it's not
Mm,
just he's been playing 10 minutes, 20 minutes. He's playing full games every 3, 4 days after a long injury. I cannot for the life of me understand it. That was a big mistake from the coach. And if you look at their defending when the goal happened, Ayub, very passive, very nervous, couldn't get the ball away, similar to how that goal happened at Villa Park. And yeah, look, I'm of the belief that if Gabriel and Saliba play the majority of these games, they'll be fine because those two are just a level above in terms of the confidence that they transmit to the rest of the team. But yesterday they were nervous, they were passive. You look at that goal, Ayub, the cross slash shot comes from the exact same part that Villa scored their first goal from, which is
mm,
not enough closing, not enough engagement. And it frustrates me no end that you don't engage because bad things happen, don't they? Deflections, crosses, headers, goalkeepers getting wrong-footed as he did yesterday. Hincapi being 3 yards deeper than everybody else. Why? You only have it. That only ever happens when you're nervous because you're trying to
mm,
mark that last line of defense out as opposed to kind of pushing out. Which, if he had done, he'd have been offside. So yeah, I think Arsenal were nervous yesterday. 1-0 is no matter who you're playing, Ayub, is not a scoreline that even the big teams, because in the Premier League, invariably, the other team's going to have some moments. It's just the Premier League. There's a chasm between these players. And look, Arsenal are much, much, much better than Wolves. But if it's 1-0 and the other team thinks, actually, they've not been peppering us, it
mm,
just gives them a little bit of confidence to say, well, what have we got to lose? There's only 10 minutes left in the game. What's the
mm.
worst that's going to happen? We'll lose 2-0. So they
Yeah.
started playing with a bit more confidence. And there was a 2, 3 minute stretch before they scored with it. The crowd was nervous. Arsenal were nervous. And Wolves knocked it around a bit and got, to some extent, they're just rewards. And honestly, I say it again, I don't think Arsenal deserve to win that game of football. They were lucky because they've got a footballer in Bukayo Saka who's streets ahead of anybody else, at least from a what I call give me the ball and let me do something with it type mindset. His mindset is incredible. He's going to play for England at the World Cup, I hope, injury free. I think he's one of the first names on the team sheet for me because he gets the ball and he's always. Andy Townsend was co-commentator here at Bein Sports where I was watching, and he said it's just the mindset. Give me it. I'll try and do something with it. And
Mm,
you need that against the weaker teams. If you show him onto his left, he'll put a good ball in. If you show him onto his right, you saw that against Cucurella, against Chelsea. You put it right on the money for Marino's header. Yesterday, again, similar situation. Get him the ball. Good things will happen because he can go both ways and he's got people on toast for the most part. So if it wasn't for him, Ayub,
mm.
Arsenal would have drawn that game. He's a top, 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 top footballer. One of my absolute favourites just because of his mindset. So they were lucky. They got out of jail. First time I would say post game, I was of the opinion that I'm not sure. Like I'm genuinely not sure because those were worrying signs in terms of how they were managing that game. Now it's Christmas. And you know, they say during that kind of Christmas period, things happen, don't they? There are some, you're managing the squad, you're rotating, you've got some suspension starting to hit, which they have done. You've got a few injuries. Obviously, Gabriel's going to be back in January. You've got a striker who's not firing. You've got another striker who's coming back after 10, 11 months. Some players genuinely not performing, a lot of rotation at the back, more injuries, more disruption. So you've got to manage that situation. You're going to get some weird results. You just are. But the one thing you have are your standards, and I thought Arsenal felt way, way, way short of the standards that they had. So, listen, they won. That's for me the only positive from yesterday. There was nothing that came out of yesterday's game that I thought, that's nice to see, and there's more of that. They were atrocious yesterday, not good enough. They won't win the title if they play like that. Absolutely not, no chance. But they got out of jail. And they won't want to have too many games like that. They've got a tough one next to you, away to Everton. Yes, they lost yesterday to Chelsea, but Everton at their new ground, Hill Dickinson Stadium or whatever it's called. I think that's a tough ask next week. But I was glad to hear Arteta was quite forthright in his comments afterwards. Really went at them, talking about how they were passive, horrible habits, and what have you. And I agree. And he's got to take some of the responsibility for that. But yeah, it was the first time, Ayub, that I questioned whether this team can go the distance this season. They need Gabriel back for me, and they need him back big time because they're missing his leadership for sure at the back.
I mean, it was a massive result, though. I mean, come May, they may look back on this result, not the sort of quality of play, but the result, because it would have been, I think, psychologically, if they had just drawn that game, I think City played today. I mean, I think in terms of goal difference, obviously they can't uh, sort of overtake Arsenal, but they would have been level points if they'd won if City win today. And I think the psychological impact perhaps would have been catastrophic for Arsenal. I think this just gives them that sort of that breathing space again that they're still ahead. But you're right, next week's going to be important. But it's I suppose the fact historically that Arsenal have always sort of felt the pressure, felt the heat. Uh, I mean, obviously, if those who are not Arsenal supporters are hoping that this is something that perhaps starts creeping
Mm.
in other games. It's going to be interesting to sort of see because I mean I've got to be honest. I mean I was one, you know me, I'm a man who just sort of spouts it off because I said a few weeks ago they're the best club side in the world, and I still sort of hold by that. I still think that sort of in terms of squad, in terms of, and you pointed it out, they can attack, they can defend, they can mix it up, they can play different types of football. They are an outstanding football side, but sometimes to win the league, it's a little bit more than just ability. The mentality is important as well. City are still there on the coattails. Uh, I think the golfing class between City and Arsenal, in my opinion, is significant. I think Arsenal are much the superior side, but Man City must be thinking, hang on, we've not really hit top gear, but we're still there or thereabouts. So in a sense, City just need to keep on winning, winning, winning. Uh, it's it's Arsenal's to lose, and I think yesterday perhaps again. Uh, some mental fragilities, and I think they are mental fragilities because it's not about ability. Ability-wise, they're outstanding, but I think mental fragilities, as I said, I mean, I was expecting when I checked the score, as I said, I wasn't following the game. I was expecting an absolute thumping. So when I saw 2-1 initially, I was surprised, but when I did actually look at the goals as to when they were scored, I couldn't believe it. But I thought at the time, my word, they've got out of jail because that would have been a massive confidence blow. But they won. Like you said, at the end of the day, it's about a result, and they got the 3 points.
Yeah, you're right. In the end, that's again the only positive they can take from yesterday. The one thing I would just add to that, Yuba, is they've got an issue up front. And that's going to become an issue right now because there were some situations yesterday as well where balls are being flashed across goal. You remember against Villa, again, Villa just before Villa scored with Buendia, Rice put a lovely ball with his left foot. And that's where
Mm,
you want a striker who's just come on like Gyökeres did at half time just to be sliding in. He was nowhere near it. If you remember, he went to the far post of Madueke, who hit the side netting. But another striker who's a bit more lively and a bit more kind of darted around that kind of last 8, 10 yards would have swept that up the Rice chance, if you remember, against Villa Park. Yesterday, similar. Saka in the first half absolutely flashes one across. The problem with Gyökeres is he's not the most mobile in terms of being nifty.
yeah.
And that's the issue that Arteta's trying to solve because I think there's a lot going well for Arsenal moving forward. There's a lot of chemistry, there's a lot of nice touch, nice football. They've got kind of some stardust with Saka. They've got Trossard playing some of his best football.
Mm,
But they need a striker who they can count on where if an opportunity comes, even yesterday, if you remember, balls are being died. Martinelli should have hit the target a few times. And you want your striker like flying in and getting tap-ins. It's the best type of goal for strikers, I think. Those kind of 6 yard, 8 yard finishes just from in around the box. And he's not close to any of those. Now, with Jesus returning, and I don't think he's necessarily the answer long term, but with Gabriel Jesus coming back and Marino being regarded as a bit of a makeshift and Havertz is going to be back very, very soon, I think Arteta's going to start looking at this and thinking, who am I going to kind of, you know, nail down as my guy? Especially as the games, like you said, you come thick and fast from a mental perspective as well, where the size of the prize becomes even more evident and bigger, bigger, bigger games are being played. So I think this is something Arteta's going to have to start looking at because Gyökeres, I thought, was poor yesterday. And when you're coming in for some big money, you've got to show some things up front. Now, he's done that in previous games. I'm just talking, he's going through a bit of a period where as competition intensifies in his position, he's not showing enough. Whether it's link up, Marino, for all of his faults, will still link it up nicely and he'll still come up with the occasional goal. I don't think he's someone he can play game in, game out. Absolutely not. It's a new position for him. But he's still got the knack of producing critical moments and critical goals. So, yeah, listen, the worrying times I thought that was yesterday. It was the first time I thought, bloody hell, they don't look strong enough. Calafiori, they missed him because he's strong in the tackles.
Mm.
Timber played well, I thought, but again, he's moved stuff around, hasn't he? He played Timber in the position that he would Saliba. Saliba playing left centre back, Hincapie left back. I'm not a big fan of multiple changes, a bit like they kind of talk about the whole England batting lineup. Don't move too many things around. You might just want to fix one issue. So yeah, listen, he's lost White now, it seems. Anytime a player goes off, it's an issue. But it it was just worrying, Ayub. I don't know how to put it. It was just the way they played. It was a very passive, nervy, lack of risk, lack of conviction football. In the first half, Wolves didn't have to face a shot on target. This is the worst team in Premier League history so far, Ayub. And
Mm.
they didn't have to face. And to be fair, Johnston, in the second half, he's made a few saves, but even the opening goals, fortuitous. Yes, Arsenal know how to deliver set pieces, but it's fortuitous, isn't it, Ayub? It's a bit of a comical goal. So, yeah, listen, it's a win. But they'll have to up their standards tenfold if they want to compete at the highest level of the Premier League and the Champions League, no doubt.
I think that next week, the game against Everton is going to be absolutely huge, absolutely massive. I think Moyes is going to be up for it, and you're right. It's their new stadium. I'm not exactly sure what the record is in the new stadium, but I think they've had some really really good results. So it's not going to be easy. So it's I'm thankful from a purely footballing point of view that it's getting exciting. I really did fear that Arsenal were going to run away with this. So it sort of for the football fan, it's a good thing, right? So in terms of the major talking points, we've done that. There's a packed program today. There's a massive game at 4:30 involving my beloved Leeds. Uh, Pretty nervous because I've got to be honest. I mean, it's a strange one. I mean,
Mm.
we've played the heavyweights, so we've played uh, I mean, Aston Villa, I suppose you've got to consider them
Yeah.
heavyweights. We played Man City after that, Chelsea, and Liverpool. I mean, you can't really get four harder games back to back than that. But I almost sort of feel that this is perhaps even more important because Brentford are, I mean, they're sort of comfortable, sort of mid-table-ish. But these are the games, really, if we are going to stay up, these are the games that some sort of somehow we've got to try and get something out of. So I'm more sort of worried about today. I'm more concerned about the performance, and it's going to be absolutely imperative that we put on a decent show and get a result. It's no point just saying, "Oh, we're going to put on a decent show." We have to try and get a result. So if we can get a draw, it's going to be a massive, massive fillip to the whole club. It keeps an unbeaten run going. So I'm looking forward to it, but I'm really, really nervous.
I was going to say it's home of one of your greatest ever results, isn't it? Away at Brentford. I just remembered famously, I think that was the last day of the season a couple of years ago, when you stayed up. I'm sure that was away to Brentford.
It was. It was. They did
When
have two men sent off, and we had
well,
Rafinha in
it
our
was
team at that time.
yeah, yeah,
It
yeah. It was
was.
the only way
It
you were going
was.
to
Yeah,
win.
yeah. It was. It was just. I still remember it. I still remember that
Harrison.
day. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It was just incredible, and lots of praying on that day. I'll be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Lots of praying. I think Harrison scored a deflected effort from a short corner or something, if I remember correctly. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
it was one of the best moments you've had as a Liverpool, as a Leeds United fan, at least in the Premier League in recent times. You're right; they were down to 9 men at the end. But it's a big game because there's also allows Brentford, if they win, to create some distance between them and the
Mm,
bottom five,
yeah.
and to stay within touching distance of that next batch of teams at you, you're going to have to, like you said, pick up at least a point. A win would be absolute gold dust because if you look at the gap, you've got obviously West Ham, I think, playing today. Bournemouth are better than those teams. There's no doubt about it. But
Mm,
they're playing, I think, on Monday, and you're going head to head against it's 16 against 15. So, yeah, you're right. You're playing well at the moment. At least you're competing, and that's the first step of any Premier League kind of survival objective. Let's say you've got to be able to compete. Burnley, I thought played okay yesterday. I saw half of the game, but they're finding ways to concede, aren't they? You saw that first
mm.
goal. It's shocking, really. Scott Parker would be massively disappointed with the way they're conceding some of these goals. It just shows you the level between the Championship and the Premier League in terms of concentration levels and what have you. So Burnley are struggling. If you can get a win today, that puts you 8 ahead of Burnley. That would be huge. West Ham obviously playing as well. So it's getting to that part of the season, Ayub, now where if you're picking up wins or you're keeping some momentum alive, you're creating. It might not be safe distance, but distance nonetheless. And that's where Leeds are. Leeds were one of the favourites to go down, probably still are in a lot of bookies' eyes. But they've just had a bit of a renaissance in terms of whether it's formational changes. Crowd seems a bit more enthused. Yes, they're away from home today, so let's see how they get on. But they need to keep some momentum going because, like you said, they've been through the kind of gauntlet of games and they're still in there fighting and picked up more points than you would have thought. So now it's a case of benefiting from, I say, an easier fixture load. But these are huge games and squad's going to be tested. Christmas period, January, all the rest of it. But it's a huge, huge game. Not sure if I'll be tuning in, but I'm not going to lie to you. But I might catch maybe the second half out of just reverence for you, you've no doubt.
Well, that's the only game. I mean, if it was a 2 o'clock game, I'd understand. You've got, I think, 3 or 4 other games to watch, but it's a 4:30 game. There's no other game on.
True. I might give
no option.
True, but I might give the missus a hand with the packing for the whole Saturday.
It's all right. You can do your hair tomorrow.
I'm getting my nails done as well.
Well, as always, a pleasure to speak with you, Ois. I wish you all the well, obviously, when you go tomorrow. Sort of do us and all that kind of stuff. All right, so have a good, safe trip. Sort of make the most of it, and we'll catch up when we catch up. All right, so and to the audience as well, take it easy, stay safe. See you soon. Ta-da.